Hi. Hi. Hey. How's it going? Hey. I'm here. Nice to see you. I have my frequencies going. This is a wisdom consciousness frequency. If you are sensitive to energy, you might be able to feel it as it's, what's that word? Emanates. I couldn't find my rock. You guys know the one that I always sit with? So I grabbed this one instead. I feel like you guys are gonna feel like you're a little crooked. My landlords have 75 people in the house, and I tried to charge up my microphone because that way you wouldn't have to hear the background squeaking. And you know what? I know that the microphone doesn't work, and I want to share something with you, which is, this isn't the real video, not that I have really an intention for today, but sit tight if you want. I was driving yesterday and I had these really profound thoughts, and I tried to record them while I was driving, but for some reason the mic did not connect to the car at all. I recorded it 3 different times, and it was almost like divine intervention, it did not want me to record. And I used to record videos while driving all the time. Maybe that's not good. Maybe that's why. My higher consciousness is always trying to remind me not to text and drive and stuff. So anyway, I had a lot of strong thoughts yesterday. Dude, it's so crazy. There's no inner peace here. I don't know if I can record this. I'm gonna be real with you. If there's this much distraction. Okay, I'm gonna try. Well, even if it's not a long video today, I just wanted to film because, hi, I'm Lana, if we haven't met before, and I just want to say thank you for watching this, because in the last 2 days alone, my viewership has increased by 60,000% or something crazy like that. I don't think it's that much, 4,000 or something. And I've been receiving a lot more comments, and it's been really, really fulfilling to my soul to be able to read what people are writing below my videos, and also to connect with all of these human beings in the ether from all walks of life. Some people it seems to be polarizing. If I could do an analysis of myself and what I'm bringing to YouTube, some people are like, this doesn't make any sense, what the actual are you saying? Some people are like, this is a labyrinth, insinuating it's impossible to navigate. And then other people will write literal novels about how it resonates with them and leave suggestions about books I should read or things like that. And I find that fascinating. And I was talking to my dad yesterday about how basically being on the internet and sharing on the internet has allowed me to see that I can be reflected in everyone. We are the matrix. We are all interconnected, right? So it's like walking in a room of mirrors. And I remember the days when I used to see a hate comment on TikTok or whatever, and my soul would feel hurt. Perhaps it wasn't my soul, but it was my heart. And then yesterday, when somebody wrote, this is a labyrinth within a labyrinth, don't quit your day job. And I was like, I don't even want to give this any second. I don't even want to give this any momentum. But I recognized that there was a compliment within there, which is that it is a labyrinth. This world that we live in is not non-complex, right? So in order to talk about various different frequencies and various different dimensions, you need to be able to transcend and descend the different dimensions at different times. So I attribute it to talking to somebody who has ADHD. They have a nested structure of communication, which isn't really talked about much, but I tutor a student with ADHD, and he will think that there is no continuity in the way he's communicating, but in actuality it's like a nesting doll of information. So we'll start here, and then we'll go to this layer, and then we'll go to this layer, and then we'll come back down, and then we'll go up, and then we'll go back down. But it's all revolving around this center question, center idea, center point, and it just jumps off. And, you know, a lot of people will be chastised or criticized for not having a linear way of thinking, but gone are the days of linear thinking, and the powers that be being those who linearly think. So when you communicate and it feels to some like a labyrinth within a labyrinth, with the advice not to quit your day job, what that really means is I trust the structures that I am within. I do not trust this labyrinth, this maze, this convoluted, complex information. It's confusing and quite scary, and I actually refuse to engage with the material. And then once I realized that that's what that comment meant to me, I said, all right, let's keep on doing it. Because to me, I love communicating. Like, I love regulation. It's so squeaky. And like this right here is their like main room. Anyway, I described my YouTube channel to my dad last night as if Bob Ross's medium was talking. Because am I gonna be okay? Are we gonna have to end here? Is this gonna be it? See, my fear now is that I'm gonna lose attention from people, right? Like if I'm not talking for 30 minutes straight with no interruptions, that people aren't gonna stick around, and I've lost viewership. I don't really wanna think about things like that, and I wanna be conscious of that. My views and my subscriber count have increased over the past week. Thank you so much. If you're new, I'm so happy you're here, but it was like so weird over the last couple days. I've seen my numbers like exponentially increase. It's not a lot, but like in the linearity sense of things, but to go from 390 to 418 subscribers in 2 days, for me, that's a lot of growth, because I've been hovering around like 250 to 300 for years now. So to even just hit 400 subscribers is, thank you so much. And one of the human beings who left a comment on my last video asked me about the concept of unconditional love. I'm not sure what they meant by it, and I asked if they had any questions explicitly about unconditional love or just wanted me to talk about it in general. And I wanted to touch briefly on that today. Okay, so unconditional love is associated mainly with this idea of a mother or a parent loving their child unconditionally. Like, even if your child commits murder, you're still gonna feel love for that child. Because why? Because that child is ultimately a part of you, right? You gave birth to that child, or your spouse or somebody in the world gave birth to that child. And now you are raising it, you are treating it as if it were your own, right? So I'm talking now like if you've adopted or you did a surrogate or whatever, right? You don't necessarily have to birth your child to feel the sense of unconditional love, is my point. So you have a child, and the reason why I think unconditional love gets associated with this is because it's this idea of treating this tiny baby human being as our own. It's ours, right? And what happens to the beingness when it has something of its own, now it's going to treat it the way it knows it should be treated. Okay, what do I mean by that? So say you did not have unconditional love in your life, and then you have a child. Typically, those people who have never felt unconditional love before in their lives learn the lesson of unconditional love through having a child, because they realize what it really means and it is associated with their child. And then perhaps later in life, maybe during retirement, they realize what unconditional love means to them. Although I will say not many baby boomers, I think, have really experienced what unconditional love is, because historically, we've had rough emotional conditions as a species, and linear thinking, cause and effect, tangible evidence, the scientific method have all been prioritized as a sign of evolution and growth, whereas emotionality, intuition, the non-seeing things have been, I want to say chastised again, and think about like the witch trials and women who were really powerful, men were terrified of and tried to burn at the stake, right? Because these values were not upheld within the general culture. And culture is just for control in a really broad sense. So, but everybody can kind of conceptualize what it's like for a mother. Even in the animal kingdom, you have, cubs and kangaroos and just like all these different ways of nurturing offspring. And so that's kind of what I believe is associated the most with unconditional love in pop culture. And a mother can really learn the lesson if they hadn't learned it prior, or a father, I don't want to be biased, whatever. If they haven't met like the conditions of unconditional love prior, then it's their opportunity to learn it. Because, and the important thing, as I said, is it's an extension of you. When it's an extension of you, now you are going to see how you are treating yourself. If you are treating your child with kindness, then it shows that you know that in some way, shape, or form, you are worthy of that same kindness, because this child is an extension of you. Now, alternatively, I don't know why this is becoming like a mother-child video, but whatever. Alternatively, if you have a child and you do not identify with it, say you resent that you have a child, say that you are disadvantaged now that you have a child, your life gets extremely hard because you have a child. Now you are going to treat this child as if it were the cause of your problems, and you are simply going to forget that this child is an extension of you. What that does is it others and splits your consciousness so that you are not able to see this idea of you being worthy of unconditional love, and thus your child being worthy of it as well. And you will have to learn the value of unconditional love if you ever do. It's a hard way to live. I think the majority of families and human beings on this earth have not been raised in an environment where unconditional love is the primary love in the family. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean that unconditional love is something, it's exactly how it sounds. It is without conditions. It is love without conditions. And when babies are small, we immediately start shaping them into being who we want them to be, because we have great intentions. Maybe, we want them to be safe. We want them to be smart. We want them to be prosperous. We want them to be happy. And so we have all these ideas of the actions needed to take to make those things happen. And we will now shape our children to form those beliefs, habits, experiences, and behaviors that we have. We're not really letting them do their own thing. In fact, there's a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that they don't do their own thing, like going to school and being taught all the same shit. So that way, every child is programmed the same way. And what happens when every child is programmed the same way? Well, ultimately, you get a fairly homogeneous society, and one that, again, with the word chastise, chastises difference as otherness and as dangerous. And if you think about it from the subconscious standpoint, pivoting a little bit. So the mind and the body are but one entity. And when you identify as a sovereign being, meaning you understand that You are the great I am. I am. That is it. There is no other identity outside of that. That is just your mind making an identity. But what happens is when your mind, body, program, experience, whatever you want to call it, feels it's in danger, it is going to create a boundary, protection mechanism, if you will. And what happens is those of us who have not experienced, circling back, unconditional love, we will ultimately believe that it is scary because it is not going to allow us to succeed in this world. Unconditional love does not win billions of dollars in the stock market. Unconditional love does not get you the job you need to pay your bills. Unconditional love is not going to take your trash out. You know what I'm saying? So we have this idea, if you are not grown, imagine you're like a plant. If you're not grown under the but ideal conditions for your growth, then you will not thrive, okay? And what happens is sometimes people's roots are so deep into the soil, they don't seek new conditions to thrive because those conditions are going to seem scary. Unconditional love being one of those conditions. So what some people may call lifting the veil, do with that what you will, what some people may call lifting the veil is similar to peeking at a world built, constructed, designed, created with unconditional love and unconditional love alone. A parameter of unconditional love that I find myself continuously relaxing into is the idea of unconditional love as expansion, continued expansion. There's a lot of talk in the spiritual circles about how we are a projection of God experiencing itself. So we are here to almost express, expand, alchemize, transform, and grow in the most expansive way possible. Because in doing so, we allow God to experience the fullest expression of creation. So that's a belief in some circles. The only thing, and this is what R.J. Spina emphasizes greatly, that you can really know is tangible knowingness, tangible wisdom, which means it's actionable and you are able to transform and alchemize something into knowingness with your own experience. The example he gives regularly is you can read a whole book on transcending dimensions and spirituality and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't experience it, that intellectual knowing is almost valueless simply because it's going to live in the mind and wreak havoc in your belief systems and in your lifestyle without actually alchemizing into some tangible thing that will show you, yes, this is true. And our apparatus wants to align with the truth. And ultimately, the truth is unconditional love. Okay? And so as a culture, as I said earlier, we are not raised under the impression that unconditional love will allow us success. Because quite frankly, the people in this country and the world that are the most successful are the most exploitative, are the most greedy, are the most scared of the things they have gathered being taken away from them, right? And that's a living in fear mentality, because right now we live in conditions of fear and fear mongering, right? We do not live in conditions of unconditional love as a general baseline. We don't walk outside and talk to everybody as if they were our children, or better yet, as if they were us. Well, perhaps you do get to that point. Perhaps you get to the point where you realize that this is a matrix, that you are a part of the matrix just as much as the projection of your neighbor down the street. So once you intellectually understand that everyone is one and we are all ourselves here together and just projecting onto one another in these fun role-playing moments, perhaps we realize this intellectually, but until you feel it in your bones from the tangible knowing that you have, only then will you be able to live that truth and live that wisdom. Billy. She's really licking. Okay. So, we live in conditions of fear. We do not live in conditions of unconditional love. This is something that has to be brought in and fostered, from what I can tell, transformed. So, something that I have been grappling with throughout my life is this contrast and polarity of wanting to be rich, wanting to be comfortable in my life, and then not wanting to exploit or dominate people. Okay. What I've learned from my findings over the years is that these two things almost have to go hand in hand from the exemplars that exist today. If you take the richest people in the world, they are making money from the work of human beings below them. And what are they going to do in return? They're going to provide them health benefits and barely a living wage. Okay. Take the CEO of Amazon, for example. Is that Jeff Bezos still? Whatever. They are refusing to sit down with contract workers because they don't want to give them health benefits. But Jeff Bezos has to have at least like 17 houses. You know what I'm saying? So we have this balance issue right now. A balance issue. Okay? It's not... The world that we're seeing is representative of what we've been projecting onto it. So I have been, as I just said, reflecting for years on the polarity of exploitation and wealth. Exploitation and wealth. As somebody who naturally is inclined to be successful, as we all are naturally inclined to be successful, I felt like my success wouldn't feel good if it was on the backs of other human beings. I didn't want to sit in some castle on a hill while all of these serfs are working for me. That is not what I envision for an unconditionally loving life. However, if exploitation and cutting costs and cutting corners is the way to succeed and the way to build wealth in the modern economy, how do I then bridge this gap in a new way that is actually affordable? It isn't just something that I want to do, but it's something I can do and something I can take steps to do. I've done this in small ways. For example, trading with fellow craftsmen. I'm being very vague with the language there and almost archetypical, but my hairdresser cuts my hair and I did a photography shoot for her family. So there was no money exchanged, simply services that we traded, almost like a barter system. Now, the triangulation of love, fear, and uncertainty is where the fulcrum of all of this balance comes to play. If we have love, unconditional love over here, and fear over here, the fulcrum is the thing that lets it go like this, okay? And the fulcrum is uncertainty, which is also, ironically, truth. Because there is a sense of truth that is uncertain. Nothing can be certain in the mind until it is realized in tangible wisdom that we live and we know. When I popped my head over the veil for the first time, it allowed everything that I had learned intellectually to integrate into my cells. So I no longer had to recall intellectual facts, but instead could just feel it in my body, in my soul, that these things are truths. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say because it just comes to me from the integrated truth. I don't have to worry about lying because it comes to me naturally, the truth. So I don't sit around and worry about lying, and I know exactly when I lie because it feels so dissonant in my body. This is an example of unconditional love because I allowed myself to look beyond the veil, to experience beyond the veil and see with my eyes, but also with my godlike hat on, to say, oh my gosh, this is all me? I did all this? And then you look at the worst parts of the world and you go, I did all this, right? I'm thinking about ruminating on the polarities of exploitation and wealth, which is also the same thing as like love and fear. And I am projecting these things onto the world in the same way that you are. And it takes a collective projection to come up with a collective illusion and a collective belief. And it isn't until we all experience this wisdom with our own tangible actions that we will truly be able to unite together in this genuine general understanding that we are all one and we are destined for success and unconditional love. And we are created based on unconditional love. Whether or not your parents loved each other is not the point, okay? It's allowing us to have experiences that allow us to expand in new directions. Some the darkest corners of the world, some the lightest corners of the world. And you will not know light without dark. It is impossible to know light without dark. And I've learned that in my cycles of growth. And I asked myself, like, is this existentially kinky in a way? Like, am I causing myself harm on purpose to grow? It seems a little bit like I'm fucking myself without my consent. That's what I've said in previous videos. And I'm like, that seems unethical and wrong. But the truth is, there is no right and wrong. There is only unconditional love. So if you want to do something, explore it. Ask yourself why you want to do it. What is the curious reason as to why you want to do the things you do? If we are all unconditional love, if we are meant for unconditional love, and unconditional love is the like perfect harmonious alignment with truth, the truth of your being, the I am, right? If all of those things are true, why not step into unconditional love? Why not just believe in it before you experience it? I believed in it and I thought about it before I experienced it. And when I did really experience it, it was like the biggest dream come true. And it showed me the untouchable power you hold when you approach the world with unconditional love. Nothing can get to you. You know that saying, like, I don't want to let it get to me. What are you doing? You're creating an energetic frequency bubble in some ways that says, I'm not going to let this energy get to me because I am unconditional love. I am. And that is all we know. That is all we know, is we are here now. That is all we know. There is no past, there is no future. Everything is right now. And the more, I believe, the more human beings come together on that, the more we can have real conversations about now. So much of our infrastructure is built on a potential future. But what about our children's children? But what about... So much so that we forget about the terrible conditions that human beings in power that are explicitly exploitative, intentionally explicitly exploitative. And we keep allowing this to happen because we believe that being explicitly exploitative is success. And people are taught that they should chase success and chase their dreams, and that the people who are achieving dreams look like this. Then we seek these exploitative powers rather than recognizing the true power, the true authentic power of unconditional love. Because unconditional love is more powerful than anything money could buy. And people with power and money know that. And so now it's not just about being rich. It's not just about being famous, because that's means of protection, means of resource. You get to be protected. You get to be in a bubble. You get to, buy whatever you want, eat healthy. You get to do all of these things to protect yourself from disease, from ills, from death. People who don't have money don't have that luxury, right? But the people with that luxury are now understanding more and more that the protection that they have built is not going to give them authentic power. It is simply going to keep them on the defense. And eventually, what may happen if under enough attacks, psychologically attacks, not like mom threats or anything like that. This is a psychological means of attack. Think of it like a hate comment. After enough of that, after being exposed to the truth, after being exposed to their truth, only then will they become authentically powerful in themselves. So if you spend your life trying to protect yourself from haters, if you spend your life trying to protect yourself from pain, if you spend your life trying to protect yourself from suffering, if you spend your life trying to protect yourself from being poor, if you spend your life trying to protect yourself from being hungry, you are building a wall of protection. You are not cultivating authentic power. And I know because I've done that, and I've done this as well. And this feels 10 times better and has given me 10 times more than anything my wall of protection would have given me. Okay? So unconditional love knows no boundaries. And if you see somebody who has these walls up, if you're an energy feeler, healer, or a reader, whatever, if you can sense this stuff and you sense that somebody has a boundary up or protection up, know that they do not unconditionally love themselves. What does that mean? I don't really know. I don't want to say that that's necessarily true. I'm not sure about that statement because I think about myself and I think about how I love myself unconditionally and what that means. What that means to me is that I can do no wrong. I can do no wrong, but I am always doing my best. And so once you love yourself unconditionally, you almost don't need that protection mechanism anymore. Because it's like I said earlier, I'm not scared I'm going to accidentally lie because I'm conscious enough to know when I'm doing it intentionally and why. And then I work with myself to understand the circumstances in which I found myself in that I couldn't be authentically powerful. And the authentic power that I carry is the weight of unconditional love. Billy! And unconditional love is weightless, I should say. I don't carry a weight of unconditional love. My body is just filled with it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a sense of a deep understanding that I am you and you are me, and any harm I wish to you is harm I wish to me. And that is the simplest of it. And so if I, for example, make my wealth, build wealth by knowing that somebody has to do something in worse conditions than I, that isn't going to make me sleep well at night. But this is something that is in our DNA and needs to be moved, needs to be evolved, for me personally. So that's what I do by talking, I transform my DNA. And I just want to say this too, is there are people, for example, so a job that I find unattractive, unglamorous, and not desirable would be cleaning toilets for a living. But I know, actually, I've met multiple people who love being a toilet cleaner for a living. In fact, love cleaning. And there are people who would want to do something like that. And even though I think I wouldn't, right? There are experiences in our lives that lend us to particular things that we enjoy and things we don't enjoy. And I believe that if we built something, a community based off of doing things that we enjoy, rather than trying to do something we think we should enjoy, then we would be more harmonious individuals and create a more harmonious collective. Because, for example, just knowing I don't like editing videos. So I sit here and I talk and I know that everything I say is going in the video. So I treat it that way, and then I don't have to edit my video later. And then also, if somebody has a higher production value of mine than mine, has a backdrop, has like the fancy audio, doesn't have landlords or a dog making noise, that has a certain value, sure, but my raw vulnerability and authenticity and unedited BS, belief systems, has value too. And by knowing that I have value, I show myself unconditional love. And thank you to everyone out there who is watching my content. Like, thank you, really. It's so beautiful to see, because as everything I just mentioned in this video, I am you and you are me. So when you comment, I treat it as if I feel this way. And why would I say something like this? And what is this showing me? Because you are a mirror of me and I am a mirror of you. So what you feel and what you see when you watch my videos and you experience me is a reflection of you. So if you're uncomfortable by me, if you're excited by me, if you're nervous about what I'm saying, if you don't get what I'm saying, there are parts of you reflected in me that maybe are awakening or excited or nervous to show up. And all I'm doing here is sharing and inviting. I'm inviting you into my energy field. And this is where I like to play. This is like my playground. And this does not feel like work. This feels necessary to me. I will get full-blown tension headaches and migraines if I don't speak. Like, it's like all my energy gets pent up right here and it needs to be released right here in order for the head and the heart to be balanced. And I do that by sharing. So to see my value reflected in you and your comments, it really means so much to me. Really does. And I just want to say that. So thank you so much. And I hope that this video does some justice to the concept of unconditional love, because remember, everything that I'm sharing is simply my knowledge and wisdom, and as you hear it, it may activate within you tangible wisdom, or it may become intellectual knowledge. But either way, the way you interact with me, my energy, my videos, my words, is up to you. And I want to empower you and encourage you to be a sovereign being in your day-to-day and really understand where your boundaries are and what it means to have those boundaries. Are you protecting yourself from something? Are you creating a Glinda-like frequency bubble? So when you descend down into lower dimensions, you are still protected by high frequency energy? Or are you protecting your high frequency energy with low frequency protection boundaries, such that the other human beings in your life see this beauty for what it is, but you are trying to hide it with walls and boundaries? And how does that reflect to your experience building wealth, having success, gaining abundance, receiving love? Because unconditional love is something that can be given and received on a binary level, even though whenever you give it and receive it, it's coming from yourself. Mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. All right, my hair be looking a little cute though. What's going on? All right, we're back in the body now. Thank you so much for watching, guys. For real. I really love you guys unconditionally, and that means that as you show up, you're doing it, you're living, you're here now, and I'm grateful for you. See you later.